She was not being difficult. She was testing you. That moment, the slight pushback, the comment that felt sharper than the moment called for, that was not friction. That was the most direct thing she did all week. And she aimed it at you because you were the only man in the room she thought might be able to handle it. You passed it off as her having a bad day. She went home and thought about you. There is a language women use around men they are secretly drawn to. And once a man learns to read it, point one, she has not said a single word about it. But something changed the moment he walked into the room. She is standing slightly differently. Her weight shifted. Her voice, if she is speaking to someone else, has a different quality to it. She is not looking at him, but she knows exactly where he is. That is the first thing to understand about a woman who is secretly attracted to an older man. She does not announce it. She does not walk over and introduce herself and say what she is feeling. What she does is far quieter and far more honest, because her body started responding before she made a single conscious decision about him. This is not poetic language. This is neuroscience. When a woman feels genuine attraction, not social performance, not politeness, but real, unscheduled desire, her autonomic nervous system moves first. Heart rate shifts. Pupils dilate slightly. The neurochemical oxytocin begins circulating before she has decided whether this is wise, appropriate, or something she is even willing to acknowledge. The body always moves first. The mind rationalizes afterward. Here is what that looks like in practice. She positions herself near him when there is no logistical reason to be near him. She engineers proximity, sits slightly closer than the social occasion demands, finds a reason to stay in the same physical space a few minutes longer than necessary. A 2014 study published in PLOS One found that oxytocin specifically decreases the social distance women maintain around men they are drawn to. The body closes the gap that the mind has not yet given permission to close. She is standing near him in the kitchen at a gathering when she could be across the room, sitting next to him at the table when there were other options, lingering at the end of a conversation that has technically concluded. She is not orchestrating this. That is the point. The behavior is biological, not strategic. And a man who knows what proximity actually signals will never again mistake it for coincidence. Here is what most men over 60 do instead. They interpret her closeness as friendliness, as good manners, as nothing. They explain it away before they have even fully registered it. And in explaining it away, they walk past a signal that was aimed directly at them. There is something else her body is doing that is even harder to fake. Her feet. The feet are the most honest part of the human body, precisely because they are the part humans least think to manage. A woman attracted to a man will orient her feet toward him, not her face, which can be pointed elsewhere, not her torso, which she might consciously redirect. Her feet. She could be mid-conversation with someone else entirely. Her feet are pointed at him. Decades of nonverbal behavior research have documented this consistently. The feet follow the brain's desire. She has not noticed she is doing it. He almost certainly has not noticed either, but it is happening in the room, with or without either of their awareness. This is point one. The attraction announces itself through the body before the woman has made any decision to announce it at all. Point two. Now watch what happens when she speaks to him. Not what she says, how she says it. Her voice will change. The research on this is more complicated than most sources admit, and the script you are watching is going to tell you the truth instead of the simple version. Studies on vocal modulation and attraction, including peer-reviewed work in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior and research presented in the Journal of Evolutionary Psychology, consistently show that women change their vocal pitch around men they are attracted to. What that change sounds like depends on the woman and the man, sometimes slightly lower, with a huskiness that researchers link to deliberate seduction signaling, sometimes slightly higher, particularly when a woman is working to hold a man's interest. What does not change across any of the studies is this. When a woman is attracted to a man, her voice becomes intentional, more deliberate, warmer at the edges, slower. The flatness that lives in ordinary conversation disappears. There is a quality of care in how the words are placed. That quality, warmth, deliberateness, a voice that sounds like it is choosing to be heard by this specific person, is the signal, not a direction, a texture. And once a man has heard it, he will not confuse it with anything else. Now here is something that confuses older men specifically. When a woman is attracted but not yet certain, she will often seem slightly unsettled. Not nervous the way someone is nervous in a job interview, but a particular kind of self-conscious, inward nervousness. She laughs a fraction too quickly. She touches her hair or the side of her neck, not deliberately, reflexively. She starts a sentence, catches something in herself, revises it midstream. What is happening here is approach anxiety. Her nervous system is activated. Her brain is alert. She is in the presence of someone who matters to her, and that state of heightened arousal spills out in micro-behaviors she is not scripting. The restlessness, the small corrections, the slightly too easy laugh. Here is the critical distinction an older man must make. This unsettled behavior is not a sign that she is uncomfortable being near him. It is a sign that he matters to her. Those two things can look almost identical from the outside. The man who misreads her nervousness as discomfort will pull back at the exact moment he should hold his ground, quietly, without pressure, without rushing, and she is left believing he was not interested. There is one more thing she does in this phase that most men never catch. She will remember something he said, not in a general polite way, specifically. She will reference something he mentioned weeks ago, casually, in a way that reveals she turned it over in her mind long after the conversation ended. He mentioned once that he had spent time in Lisbon. Weeks later, she says she came across something about Portugal and looks at him directly for just a moment. She is not sharing reading material. She is pulling on a thread she has been holding since the first conversation. That is not coincidence. It is not good manners. The brain stores what it values. She kept him. Point 3. Here is where it gets more complex, and where older men get it wrong most consistently. When a woman is attracted to an older man, she will test him, not out of cruelty, not always consciously, but she will find out whether he is real. She will say something mildly challenging, push back on a small opinion he holds, be slightly more direct than the moment calls for. Ask a question that requires him to have a genuine answer rather than a comfortable deflection. These are not power moves. They are not manipulation. They are the woman's nervous system running a compatibility check. Her brain is asking a specific question, not, is this man impressive? She already knows he is, or she would not be running the check. The question is, does he know who he is firmly enough to remain himself when I push? Will he fold? Will he over-explain? Will he get defensive? Will he disappear? Or will he stay grounded, warm, unrattled, and show me that the steadiness I sense in him is real? Because here is what she is actually drawn to in an older man. Not his age, what his age represents, if he has used the years correctly, stability, emotional regulation, the ability to remain present when the temperature rises. Research in adult attachment theory, developed through the foundational work of John Bowlby and expanded by Dr. Sue Johnson's clinical research on emotionally focused therapy, identifies emotional regulation as one of the most powerful drivers of adult attraction. Not a culturally learned preference, but a biological one. A man who can feel without being controlled by what he feels sends a signal to a woman's nervous system that registers as deep safety. And safety, in the neuroscience of attraction, is not a consolation prize. It is primary. So when she pushes, she is checking whether his calm is earned or performed, whether the man she senses underneath the surface is the man who will be there in 3 months. The man who passes this test does not pass it by saying the right words. He passes it by not flinching, by holding his position with warmth instead of rigidity, by being so settled in himself that her challenge does not require a counterattack. That response, quiet, clear, rooted, reaches her nervous system below the level of thought. It reads as, this man is exactly what he appears to be. Most men over 60 have already been tested by a woman this week and passed it off as her being difficult. That pushback was not aggression. That was an invitation. And the man who understood what was actually being offered held every advantage in that room over any younger man who either backed down or overreacted. Point 4. There is something she does around an older man she secretly desires that almost no one names directly. She becomes a slightly sharper version of herself, not performed, not engineered to impress. But in the same way a person instinctively straightens when someone they respect enters the room, she becomes more considered, more specific. She brings him different conversation than she brings everyone else. Not the social weather, not the easy topics, but the things she has actually been thinking about, the things she wants to say to someone worth saying them to. Here's the distinction that matters, and that the obvious version of this insight always skips. She is auditioning for his attention, not his approval. Those are not the same thing. A woman performing for approval wants to be judged well. She needs him to confirm she is worthy. That performance is anxious at the root. A woman performing for attention wants to be seen. She wants him to be paying the right kind of attention, the kind that recognizes what she is actually putting in front of him. That performance is confident at the root. The difference is visible if a man knows what he is watching. The woman seeking approval monitors his reaction constantly, adjusting herself to match his response. The woman seeking attention monitors his engagement. Is he actually here? Is he actually catching this? Without adjusting herself at all, the woman who desires him does the second. She will say something precise and point it into a group conversation, and then, briefly, maybe 2 seconds, her eyes will move to him, not to check whether he approves, to check whether he caught it. That check is the clearest tell in this entire video. She will also ask him questions that have no practical purpose. What does he think about something she has already formed a view on? What would he do in a situation that is entirely hypothetical? She is not gathering information. She is building more of what talking to him feels like, because she is already consuming that feeling, and she wants more of it. There is also something she will stop doing around him that is more significant than anything she starts doing. The social performance goes down. The ambient pleasantness that women learn to maintain in public. The reflexive warmth extended to everyone. The smile that arrives before thought, that quiets when she is with someone she is genuinely drawn to. She may be slightly more serious than expected, more direct, less demonstratively warm than she is with people she barely cares about. This will confuse an older man who has been taught to read obvious enthusiasm as the sign of interest. But the performance stopping is far more meaningful than the performance starting. She only puts down the armor around people she trusts enough to actually be seen by. Point 5. Now the final signal, the most important one, and the one most likely to be misread entirely because it looks from the outside like its opposite. When a woman is seriously attracted to an older man, not casually interested, genuinely drawn in, she will at some point create distance. She will be warm and present, and then briefly unavailable. She will engage fully, and then take a half step back. The ease of access she offered will be followed by a response that takes longer to arrive. She creates a small gap where there was warmth. Most men read this as rejection. They recalibrate downward, assume they did something wrong. Some try harder, more contact, more effort, more presence, which accelerates the withdrawal. Some go silent entirely, deciding she was not interested after all. Both responses miss what is actually happening. Psychologists studying attachment behavior call this approach avoidance conflict. Two equally powerful drives operating simultaneously. Move toward what you want and protect yourself from the exposure that comes with wanting it. The stronger the attraction, the stronger both drives become at once. The woman is not ambivalent about him. She is dealing with the weight of having let herself want something real. Here is the neurological specificity that most scripts on this subject skip. When attachment begins forming, the brain's threat response system, the amygdala, activates alongside the reward system. Attraction and anxiety share the same neural circuitry at the early stage. The pullback is not a decision she made about him. It is her nervous system trying to regulate the intensity of what she is feeling. She is not retreating from him. She is trying to stay in control of herself. The man who understands this does not pursue. He does not disappear. He does the one thing that addresses the actual problem her nervous system is dealing with. He remains exactly as he was, present, unhurried, warm, without any change in his behavior that signals either desperation or withdrawal. He does not reference the gap. He does not ask what happened. He simply continues being the man she was drawn to in the first place. And in doing so, he answers the question her nervous system was actually asking. The question was never, does he still want me? The question was, is he stable enough to be safe to fall toward? His steadiness is the answer. Closing. Here is the final truth that reframes everything just covered. She was never hiding her attraction from him. She was broadcasting it in a language he was never taught to read. Every signal in this video is a form of transmission. The proximity, the voice, the elevation of herself, the tests, the withdrawal. None of it is confusion. None of it is games. It is a woman's nervous system communicating in the only vocabulary that bypasses social performance and reaches something true. She cannot help it. That is the point. These signals are honest precisely because they are not chosen. An older man who can read this language does not have to compete, does not have to perform, does not have to become something he is not. He only has to see what is already being shown to him and respond from the same steadiness that drew her attention in the first place. Here is the one thing to do after this video ends. The next time a woman in your presence does any of what was just described, the proximity, the voice, the test, the pushback, the pullback, do not explain it away. Name it to yourself. Say, I see this. Then do nothing dramatic. Stay present. Stay grounded. Stay exactly who you are. Let the stability speak. That is all it has ever taken. She already decided. She is just waiting to find out if he knows it. You already knew this. Now you can't unknow it.